How to get into music? I think the best story for that is that I think when I was like maybe 8 years old, I heard my dad play piano for the first time. He was trained RCM up to grade 10, but I'd never heard him play because my dad had kind of wasted his hands away like in bar fights and construction and tree planting. So I never heard him play my whole life, even though he played jazz and classical music. So when I was like 8 years old, I finally heard him play for the first time on a grand piano. And it was super inspiring and really life-changing. So I think I picked up music probably that year. I started playing trombone and saxophone, and those were the least cool instruments you could play in my hometown. So I told everyone, I was like, I'm gonna be an electric guitar player. So I managed to like do the 10-year-old kid thing of mowing lawns and washing dishes, and I finally got myself a guitar. That's how it all started out. And I was self-taught, so I never had a teacher until I moved to Vancouver actually a few years ago, and I went to the music school here. So it was an interesting way to start out. I started out really into my parents' record collection, which was a lot of Dire Straits, a lot of B.B. King. We had the Neville Brothers, we had Willie Nelson, Bob Marley. I think that's what I got into very, very early on. I remember probably being as young as like 12 or 13. I was sitting in around town playing with the blues players in Calgary and stuff, and that's really what drew me in. I went to Cap here in town. I went to Cap University. I studied with Ron Samsworth. Yeah, and he was awesome. It was really, really awesome. I was kind of doing like a hillbilly jazz thing, and I think it was definitely confusing for some of the faculty. They were like, what the fuck is this? What do we do with this guy? It was great. I got to know a lot of the people here in the scene and have some awesome experiences, and it was a great way to like get out of Alberta and like, get acquainted with Vancouver. I'm from a town called Bragg Creek, and it's like about an hour south of Calgary, and it's like really, really small. So you just don't really stick around there anyways. So that was a big part of coming out west. I didn't really know much about Cap. I'd met some good players who were like, hey, come on out. So it happened really fast. I just applied and moved out and figured it out. I had like my Volkswagen Golf, just like with like 5 guitars in it and like a garbage bag of my clothes. And I was like, I think I'm gonna go to Vancouver and see what happens. So it was good. It was really good. But yeah, it was very, very eye-opening. I've always been happy being an outlier. Yeah. I was very not fazed by that because I got to the school and yeah, it was very different. I was never really big into jazz, and my experience with music growing up had always been being a working musician as well, and being a blues musician, and that's not something I think a lot of my peers at Cap were really relating to as much, but I knew that was an important thing to hold on to, and so I kind of just stayed in my ways, and I think I arranged Ghost Riders in the Sky and 5/4 for like one of our projects, and was doing silly projects like that. I was playing jazz with a B-bender. Like it was, I remember a really good prof at one point, he made a comment. I don't think he meant it as encouragement. He goes, man, it's kind of sounds like this country swing thing. And I was like, yeah, like Western swing, like Bob Wills. I'm like, those guys are the best, thanks. And he was just really like, okay. So it was, I think that was kind of the vibe. It was like, all right, well, this dude's doing his thing. And I remember taking some kids like out in my car, like the first week I got to Cap, and taking them off-roading, like drifting and stuff in my car, and thinking that was like how you made friends in my town. So, and everyone was just like, this guy is fucking crazy. And they were like, really? Yeah, so I did like, I started sidemaning because I feel like sidemaning is something I always really wanted to do and still want to do more of, because it's the best way to learn. And like, you and I are both music geeks, you know, and just want to learn. And I think that's what has taken me to where I am now and what continues to influence things. It's honestly, at the end of the day, it's learning and those new experiences. So if someone wants to do a gig and it's not in my wheelhouse, then I try really hard to make that thing be in my wheelhouse so that I can try something new. And also being a young guy, like I've gotten to play with people that have so much more life experience than me. And like, I'm super humbled and honored when those people like are like, hey, come along, let's do this together. Because yeah, it's really something that means a lot to me to do that. And the solo thing, I think the solo thing is, with that, I think it comes down to more like the artistry of it. That's when you're doing your own solo thing, that it's a chance for you to really go deep on what kind of stories do you want to tell, and like what's important to you, where do you come from, and how do you want to interact with the world, and how do you want to move through life. And I feel like that's when you're doing your own music and writing your own stuff, that's the stuff that comes to the forefront. So it can be like intense and scary if you're really, but it's something you kind of have to do if you want to be in the front and be leading these people around. So I'd always wanted to play for people. I'd always wanted to play with people. I think the great thing about being this self-taught kid screwing around with a guitar is that you can kind of only go off what you feel, because you don't really know much else about music. And I've got lots of knowledge now, but I still go back to just the basics of what feels good. And the thing that felt best in those days and still does is playing in front of people and having a great time with musicians on stage and with an audience. So I think that's always been just a really big part of who I am, is the performance and the shared experience of doing it.